issue that we are talking about today is not an easy one, but it is one we have to face as a country because we have to remain as one Belize. We cannot have a separation in any way of our country. We're one Belize. And I want it to be very clear before we start anything that the government is acting in the best of faith with all the people of our country, whether it's Maya, Garifuna, or Mestizo, sisters and brothers, whatever race and ethnicity. Again, we don't want any division.
I think it's wrong of you to assume that everyone knows English, that everyone comprehends English. All are we here, yes, we're at school, and let me tell you, we have students, we have kids that go to school. What is the most challenging subject that they have at high school? English, right? English, right? So you can't assume that we know English, or that we comprehend English properly. So I think, rightly, to be fair, is that we should have had a translator, the organizers, and we should have a translator.
Garcia, and I live on a lease lot across the river. I have my family that live across the river on title done. They have been here for almost 50 years. Born and grew up here in San Pedro, Colombia. And I've read this policy about 2 times. This is my first time sitting down and listening to you, Council. So a few observations and echoing what Mr. Chaco mentioned. And when you speak about that poor area, I realize that individual private lands, leased lands, fall within that poor area.
Yes.
The lands beyond the 6 kilometers, wherever we decide the center may be, if we go that route, more than likely, those farmlands are leased lands, those 30-acre blocks. More than likely, they are title lands. So my question, if Colombia do decide communal land is the way to go, who will compensate us for those lands?
If you could show, for instance, that you have your title and you've been there, then no communal interest title can be given for that space as the policy now stands. That is why it's drafted in that fashion, so those spaces would be protected. But yes, there's a right to compensation, and with regard to compensation, there is one provision that affects village members. Because if you're a part of the village and you decide to give up your title to communal land, then you can expect to be paid back the full market value for that title, because you now, as a member of the community, also continue to own the land. It's not that it's lost you, it's that the way you could use it now changes to reflect what the customary practices are.
My question would be, what mechanism or mechanisms are envisioned to ensure that there is equitable distribution within the communal system? Because if you don't like somebody and you're responsible for distribute land, we know how that can go. And so that becomes very important. I have 2 title property. Because of that 10-year system that I have, I am concerned that if I lose that, then I will have to be asking somebody to tell, or waiting for somebody to give me rights to a piece of land when I already have a title property. How the government is doing this, doing that, this is a draft. That's why we come to you, we hear your concerns, you notice somebody's recording the notes, because your concerns, your contributions are recorded, and those are going to be a part of the process in the final cleaning up of the policy, the draft policy to become the policy. And then what is the next step? Once we finish with the consultations and the policy is clean, government then has to go to legislation, meaning to make the law. Because this is the first time. We don't have a law that governs land rights. We don't.